that my dad had passed. I woke up that morning, February 1st, 10:30 a.m., and I had heard my mom screaming. I never thought that my mom would ever scream like that, so I thought it was a dream, and I stayed asleep. But once I had heard my brother screaming, I rushed downstairs. I found my mom laying on the floor, and her head was bleeding out. And my brother was fighting with my dad. He was almost in like a headlock, and I knew something was seriously wrong. I tried to break up my brother and my dad, and Aiden had rushed out the door, and I later found out that Aiden ran to a hospital by himself. I stayed inside, and my dad had went into the kitchen, and he grabbed one of the cooking knives, and he stabbed himself. And for a moment when he was laying on the floor for a bit, I called 911. And after that, the police had came shortly, and my dad went upstairs to the bathroom. Later that day, I had gone to the hospital because they took my mom and they took my brother to the hospital, and I found that both of them had been struck in the head. My dad had hurt both of them. And I wanted to properly say what had happened because I'm sure all of you have heard about what happened, and I'm sure many of you are very shocked, and many of you are looking for answers and wondering, like, you know, that's not what Lord would do. And it's not. That day, when I saw my dad, for a moment when I looked at his eyes, he was already gone before I had known that he had passed later that day. My dad has been struggling with severe anxiety and depression ever since the last year, ever since our family had many issues that we were dealing with. And it seems that he was consumed by his illness that day. I looked at him in the eye and I couldn't see anything that reminded me of him. I didn't see my dad at all. The light was gone, and his face was almost perplexing to me. It had looked nothing like him at all. I also say this because it is very extremely out of character for him, and my dad would never do that. My dad loved our family very deeply. He would always protect my mom, my brother, and me. He was a man of good faith, and in truth, I wasn't even upset or scared when he had taken his life. I just knew that deep down that it took him so much for him to reach that point. My dad has also been on many different medications for his illness since the past half year, and he hasn't received proper help. So my family had thought that he probably has been struggling very quietly with the many side effects of his medications. It's something that replays in my head a lot. to the house later that night to have it cleaned up, and I had the time to look at the house after everything that had happened. And I wasn't even bothered by the blood. I knew it was the truth, and I had gone into the bathroom where he died, and I saw his handprint on the wall. And I knew that it was like the last thing I had of him before they cleaned our house. I don't want to make what happened the focal point, but I want to address that to all of you. Because what my dad did was not an accurate reflection of his character or him as a person. My dad was severely sick, just like someone who had died of cancer or stroke or any other illness. I remember it and see it the same way. I want to kind of steer away from that topic, a very traumatic topic, to kind of give space to how I want to actually remember him, and to give tribute to him and his life, his legacy, the impact he left on all over here. I will say, I was actually very moved seeing everyone in the past days, yesterday, today, and hearing about all the great things that he's done for everyone here. I know my dad was a great coach, and some of you here know him through volleyball. And my dad had coached ever since I was maybe in 3rd grade. I touched my first volleyball in 2nd grade with him. My dad and I had always been side by side ever since I started volleyball. Ever since I was young. It all started when I would just touch a volleyball in the backyard, and he'd show me the proper platform or how to bump a volleyball. I actually remember the first time I bumped a volleyball, and I would show him how high I would bump it, and it was so high it would reach the trees. Later, when I had gone into CYO, I would always practice serving with him in the backyard. And obviously, knowing my dad, knowing how competitive he was, we'd practice in the backyard for countless hours. Whether it may be sun or even mildly snowing. He would make me serve to the tile on right above the window where it could kind of be like a net. And we had done that until I could serve consecutively, and he wouldn't let me go inside until I maybe had like 5 serves in a row at least.
Oh, damn.
And I mean, it did me good because I was like a star server for for some years. Whether may it be volleyball or triathlon, marathons, even his work, physical therapy, he was into many things, and he had she has to stay for a bit in the process of why we moved here. Whatever he did, he always did it with good heart. Never for selfish means, but I'm starting to learn as of late that it's almost something that I feel like I inherit from him. Everything that my dad has done is out of love and genuine passion and believing that there was so much more to what he had done, that it moved people, that there was a bigger purpose to it. It wasn't just the act itself, but it served his spirit. I know all of you definitely remember my dad with someone with a great smile, always smiling, always looking for a moment to laugh. I know some people remember him as just that nice jogger that passes by, just to say hi, just to share a fleeting moment of, let's enjoy this moment, let's cherish this moment. How are you doing? Oh, I'm good. You know? I do want to share though, initially when everything had happened, I've had many mixed feelings, because the truth is, you know, I'm his first daughter, and I'm the only one here that knows how he is as a father. Without a doubt, I know that my dad loved me very deeply.
Because
I had grown up, and as much as we spent a lot of time bonding over volleyball, in truth, I did have a pretty complicated relationship with him. We never saw eye to eye. You could never leave me in the room with him for too long, because we might argue over something. We're both extremely stubborn, and I think that we both just have different definitions of what love looked to us and what we wanted out of the relationship that we had. As a father, I had seen him as usually irritated. After he'd come home from work, he was always stressed out, always putting stress on everyone else in the house. If he wanted his space, he would barely talk to me, but you know, I'd come to think of that in the past weeks, and honestly, all of the good things and the bad things start to blur. I think I know very well now that when you love someone as family, you choose to pick the good and the bad. You love them entirely, every flaw, whether they work on it or they don't. You choose to love them entirely every day for all the good and the bad. would take a lot of time to reflect on it with maybe my mom or Sammy or Hannah. That my dad actually didn't have a very easy life growing up. My dad was very big on hard work, always pushing, always being better than what you were yesterday. And as inspiring as that is, and I know that quite literally translates to his work, it does push him too much. He was never happy with what he had just standing right in front of him. It's hard because I know that's what also played a big factor into his mental health, because my dad could never grasp the fact that mental health is not something that you push. I had spoken to him a few times over the phone. He'd come back from work and he'd call me out of nowhere, and he's like, I just need someone to talk to. I'm really anxious. Can you just stay on the phone? And I would try to tell him, you know, you need to take your time, you need to be patient with yourself, because when you're pushing yourself, you only hurt yourself more. And I know that my dad could never even grasp the idea or the words that I had told him. My dad was just doing the best that he could. I like to remember the good little things as well, obviously. The first thing that I can think of when I come to mind is my dad had a small nose. And I think I also inherited that from him. And my mom would joke about it all the time. She was like, oh, you have such a small nose, just like daddy. And honestly, I feel myself now that I'm starting to hear myself breathe like the way that he did. My dad was also a very goofy man. He had a very fun sense of humor. If you put my dad in a party, even if you know how stressed he is most of the time, you'd see him break a dance. You'd see him let loose. You'd see him enjoy himself. I remember my dad would set up all these different contraptions at home. My dad was pretty frugal. He liked to work with what he had, and he liked to be crafty. He would set up this volleyball on one of the bars we'd have to like do, you know, the ones that do pull-ups. He'd put them on there so we could practice our swing when we spike. And it was there for, I don't know, maybe like a good 4 years, 5 years. And it was there long enough that Aiden would also do it, knowing Aiden and I have a 6-year gap. My dad was also very into survival games. My dad loved watching TV shows like, oh, like what are you gonna do in the wild when you don't have a lot? You know, just the easiest way to start a campfire, cook food. It was so crazy. Like we'd find little bits inside his car. He'd be taking little pieces to make little like ropes. It was so messy. to eat his peanut butter sandwiches with his coffee, and he dipped the peanut butter sandwich in the coffee. And he always found it efficient. I think that was something that he liked a lot, something that was very efficient, very fast. I feel like I'm stalling a bit. There's too many things, and I'm kind of scared that the next thing I might end up breaking into tears. Like this wasn't. I don't know how many times I cried today. It's quite tiring, but. Truly, even if I couldn't appreciate his presence at times at home, when he was still alive, I knew that he was a pillar. He was very important to our family. Just my mom, my dad, Aiden, and me. And knowing that he's gone, it's never gonna be the same. The moment that I had heard the news from the detective that he was gone, immediately my life started to change. For the past weeks, every memory I could recall of him has been flashing in my head. Even times when I was younger, even the very first day that my mom had gone to work and my dad had to stay at home to take me to school. I feel like I cry every time I look at videos where my family's all together, especially videos from Aiden and I's childhood, back when everything was very peaceful and, there's very little things to worry about. I feel like that was the time where my dad could breathe the most. I'll never forget looking at videos where Aiden wasn't even 4 yet, and I was also very young. And my dad would always be making jokes. My dad would always be acting like the very silly man he is. And when I was so small, just tagging along with his jokes. And my mom would just be recording on the side, just happily watching. My dad was always the first person to say, "Oh, we'll come together, we're gonna send Lola happy birthday." We'd go on road trips. My dad liked to take a video of the road. He was someone that tried to enjoy the moment the most he could. My dad used to go on roller coasters with me when my mom didn't want to because my mom didn't like roller coasters. I remember being so little and my dad and I just going around, amusement park being, oh, like which one is scarier? Which roller coaster goes higher? so many little happy memories that I share with